It's time to take a deep breath, a little deeper, and settle in with your host, Spa and Wellness Director JENESSEE, starting right now on the Wellness Hour on Karma Radio.
Good morning, happy Friday to Karma listeners and our in-studio audience. I am so excited. We have on the phone SaraSwati calling in from New York, and I have in studio Kristen Joseph and Barry Rosenkrantz, who will talk about more. But let's jump right in. SaraSwati, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
good morning.
Welcome and good morning, and thank you for your time again. This hasn't been back-to-back weeks, right? We had a week in between that we didn't talk.
I believe it was last week.
Did we talk last week? I don't know.
Yeah, no.
It's a blur. So I think we did, because last week we did have you
Right.
at Walden, and we did the cacao ceremony and the beautiful cacao and sound journey experience with you. And so that's why we wanted to have you call back, because we have not only some questions, but questions. Lots of questions, right, ladies?
Lots of questions.
So can I just jump right in? And
Please.
okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, okay, my first question, and it's maybe going to be a little long-winded to get to it, but I actually studied with somebody who teaches at Kripalu a lot, and she actually got her PhD in, gosh, I don't know how she labeled it, but her PhD was basically on how to integrate after you have a intensive experience or workshop experience or ceremony experience, right? Because the power, the transformation, the activations, everything that happens during a ceremony or intensive or workshop experience is so powerful, and the group that you create that with, it's so powerful. And then people then have to then reacclimate into a life that seems to be a little bit of a different vibration, right? And so she did her PhD on this one topic. And so having three of us here in studio who were at the ceremony, and you, the ceremony leader, I just want to maybe talk about this not only for us and the people who were at your amazing experience last weekend, but then anybody who goes into some kind of life transformative experience and maybe doesn't know how to integrate that, or some of the signs or things they can expect after a ceremony experience. Does that sound like a good topic?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So number one, can you just go over, for those who are tuning in who maybe did not get to attend the ceremony experience that we had with you last weekend, the Cacao and Sound Journey, or didn't hear us talk to you 2 weeks ago and explain this? Can you give us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then what you brought to Walden last weekend?
Sure. So I come from yogic background, and the lineage of yoga that I'm a part of is Sri Dharma Mitra, which you are all familiar with at Spa Walden, with Barry and what she shares with the community there. But I have been on the path, for lack of a better term. I started yoga, seriously practicing yoga, became also vegan, and started studying herbal medicine and plant medicine at the age of 15. Started teaching yoga and leading formal yoga classes at the age of 20, and opened a studio shortly after, probably like maybe 6 years after teaching. So for a long period of time, I was practicing herbalist. I worked at a health food store in particular worked with women and taught yoga classes at night. So for about 6 to 8 years, I worked 40 hours a week and then taught 2 yoga classes Monday to Friday.
Oh, wow.
And so, the universe gave me a switch to open a yoga center out there in the studio. And the rest is kind of history, and things just kind of organically have melded together, and sound came in. So I practiced and studied a lot about Jnana Yoga, which is the path to yoga involving sound, and started working with alchemy singing bowls shortly after. So first it was more in the yogic background of harmonium and mantra and bhajan study. And then I received my first alchemy and crystal singing bowl. And I thought I was just going to practice.
That's how it always starts, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to play.
And it was like, no, you have to, this is a service for others. And really it just multiplied.
With gongs, and we know that in the history of yoga, the first yogic instrument was gong, actually. So now I work, I've broadened the sound experience. I've kind of come full circle back to plant medicine and my relationship and working with cacao and leading these ceremonies. So what I brought to Walden was a cacao ceremony where we all came together and we drank ceremonial grade cacao, which has no caffeine, and we drank it in the traditional way and had circled together, which really opened the space not only for heart expansiveness, but for each individual to come into their heart space and to clear away the clutter of the mind or heart or physical body and parameters of just our day-to-day lives, just to come back to the self. And then we had a nice sound journey experience where the participants then got to lie in Shavasana, the yogic relaxation pose, while I played the different alchemy singing bowls, different gongs, planetary gongs, elemental gongs, and some other sound medicine instruments. And I can't wait to hear about your experience and talk more about also the integration piece, because that is very, very important of how to integrate all these practices, all these different modalities into our day-to-day life, into the mundane, to make the mundane not so mundane, to make everything sacred and holy in our lives, and have that realization that it is. It truly is.
Yeah, so since we have Barry Rosencrantz and Christian Joseph here in studio, who both partook in the ceremony, I'd love to get their feedback for you and then also the collective, because I'm blessed enough to be in contact with quite a few of the people who came and experienced ceremony. So I even have 5 other people that I can speak for also to give a bit of feedback on the experience for. So we'll look at mic 1 here. So Barry, so give us a little bit. Yes. Give your love to Saraswati.
Saraswati, namaskar. And totally awesome to have been in your presence and to have had the opportunity to be spiritually lifted and very much, how can I say, moved, changed, emotionally riveted, but also relaxed, zenned out in your beautiful ceremony with the sound bath, and even in that beautiful exercise where we focused on each other's faces for a period of time was very special and changed me incrementally, little bits and changes inside. No one can see it but me, but I know it existed, and made a beautiful connection with your philosophy and your practice, and how you shared so generously all that you're passionate about, all that you learned throughout the years, and all of your expertise to guide us towards an emotional shift, a spiritual shift, and also a higher level of awareness, self-awareness.
So how did that happen, Barry? Because
exactly
physical, emotional, have you had that?
Physically, I felt happy and high vibratory levels from the cacao. Totally, not just giddy, but like I felt my sensory organs, my sensory, tactile, everything was heightened and elevated in a positive way. Just really great vibrations. That old song, Good Vibrations, well, there you had it right there. And then emotionally, I felt a shift from any sort of preconception about what I am currently doing from myself with my path shifted a little bit more towards ease and relaxation and peacefulness and trust. And then within my level of expansiveness to an experience, I felt completely open and receptive. Sri Dharma always says, be receptive to the grace of God that dwells inside your heart. And so with my amazing journey with you this weekend, I felt even more receptive to everything that the universe has to give. So the shift happened even later on in the week when I teach classes throughout the week, and some of them are 2-hour-long classes, some of them are an hour and 10 minutes. And throughout that class, I felt a small shift of the way that I've been teaching Dharma Yoga for the past year and a half, of ease, of more generosity, of more relaxing. I feel like you gave me a little shine, some light, because you've been on that path with Sri Dharma for such a beautiful long period of time. You've eased into it being a part of you. I feel like you transmitted through your education a bit more ease and self-connection to Dharma.
So it sounds...
I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can you imagine all that?
SaraSwati, I'm going to let you respond.
I so much. I didn't even know how much I was saying just now.
Well, being in the presence and being in the presence with everybody and sharing this experience. I mean, that's what the cacao does. It just kind of uncorks your heart. So, sharing this experience with everybody really gets us, just into that love state.
Yes.
Where, just like Barry was sharing, where, when you're doing the mirroring exercise where you're sitting across from the individual, it's impossible not to just love them completely and unconditionally. That's the power of cacao, because of all of not only the consciousness of that particular plant, is the heart, but all the feel-good hormones that activate. So if I was hearing Barry's sharing and experience correctly, it just helped her to remember that all really exists within her. And so being in the presence and sharing this experience together, it kind of just it lifts the dust that has settled. And the dust that has settled in our lives, you can think of it as just the things that aren't so important that we get caught up in day after day. And it just keeps settling and keeps settling and keeps settling. And so when we have this sound experience and also the cacao, it shakes that dust up and off. It's like a dog when they come in from outside in the rain and they shake off, right? Everything, so that we can remember what is important, so that we can really connect to that love spring, the wellspring within us, our generosity, our interconnectedness with everything. And that power lies within each of us as individuals.
You had mentioned the koshas, the layers of the personal sheaths during the ceremony, and just exactly what you said. For me personally, I felt as if removing the sheaths and getting down, all the way down past Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, getting back down into this little self of love, Atman, right deep in the center. it was exactly what you said, a dusting off of all things that may just be weighing down that we don't even realize, and then left is love. And so much love proliferated in that room for those 3 hours, and you felt it. We all felt it. It was transmitted through this beautiful circle of love. We were all connected to your ceremony with total endearment and presence.
Yeah, it was a beautiful space.
Okay, Kristen?
Well, anytime I am headed to the Walden, because I live an hour away, I get a higher vibration. I'm more excited. So I knew going I was going to enjoy it no matter what. And I was just excited to experience something new and learn something new. And that was my first experience with the cacao. And I felt like it was a safe space and a creative space and like-minded space, and that you kind of could just like let go while you're there. You didn't have to worry about, oh, what are people going to think? What my family's going to think I'm crazy. Like everybody there was there for the same reason. And in my day-to-day life, turning inwards more difficult, where when I go to the Walden or a intensive ceremony or the sound bath, it like just totally immerses you so that I can connect physically, mentally, spiritually. And I questioned some direction in my life with certain things that I'm doing, and I felt like I got answers, and they were simple answers, and I left feeling blissful, like I just felt new and renewed, and so it was a great experience. And my question is, when are you coming back? I'm ready for more.
I'm ready to come back. I hope very soon.
We'll boomerang you, no problem.
That would be great. I'm headed to Iceland next on Monday, and I'm
for an intensive
sound journeys.
Would you call this an intensive? Is it a full schedule that people can go and be with you?
This one is not an intensive. That's going to be in June. But I am going to be playing the gongs by the sea. So this trip is more about connection for me. But the intensive I lead will be in June. But I'm kind of doing a mini intensive here in Syracuse this weekend. I'm playing a sound journey tonight, and then leading a cacao ceremony for honoring the ancestors, the Day of the Dead, tomorrow.
Okay, so I have a question, because I'm touching base with quite a few people, 5 to be exact. After this ceremony, we each, some of them had scheduled plans, which I'm sorry for them to have done that to themselves. But so the 2 that scheduled something right after actually had to leave, like just said thank you, but no thank you, and left. And all of us went into a complete deep sleep immediately. And I think we ended at 8 o'clock. And so by 8:30, all of us were complete out. I don't know, Barry, Kristen, did you guys have the same thing?
Actually, I didn't. I was so charged. I don't think I went to bed till 12:30 at night, and I am an early bird. I am usually asleep by 10:30, 10 o'clock. I felt completely exhilarated, and I was up and doing things and talking and doing just inner meditation, and I was even lying in bed just thinking gracious thoughts, how happy and grateful I am for this experience, and just coming into moments of gratitude left and right.
Yeah, Kristen?
I felt a little charged also, but I had to go home and put my little ones to sleep, and so I went back right to my life. So I think if I would have stayed over at the Walden, maybe it would have continued and I would have been up, but I ended up laying in bed with my 5-year-old, putting her to bed, so I did fall asleep pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I felt really charged after. Like you didn't want to leave.
So interesting. So very different experiences. because I had to go home and go right to sleep. I actually got up from the end of the sound journey and walked to the back of the room, and I was running so much. It felt to me like an activation energy. I could not quit it, and I started to get dizzy, and I had to go to the back of the room and lay down before I passed out. And so I laid down and grounded for another 5 seconds, and then I ran out of the building and got into a car and then went to sleep. So very different experiences.
Did you have the best sleep ever, though?
Oh, best sleep ever. And
it's amazing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's so nice and deep.
Yeah, which to me, right, I do it a lot of this kind of work. So to me, that's a definite integration, right? So when you're bringing in that much high vibrational energy, and the physical, the body can't handle it in a conscious state. You know, it needs to go dormant to receive and activate, integrate.
Yeah. I call it they take you out.
They take you out, exactly. They take you out.
You have to lie horizontal. They take you out.
SaraSwati, can you please explain to the listeners a little bit more about the Deva and also the cacao essence, or the history, and why cacao is involved in a ceremony as opposed to something else that could be in a ceremony that you eat, let's say?
Yeah, I can do a little bit of a brief recap. That's a good point. So the cacao deva, as I explained a little bit last time, each plant, whether it's peppermint you're growing in your garden or cacao, contains a particular consciousness, right? Or we believe that they contain a particular spirit. So if you're not comfortable with the term, say, spirit, you could say that each plant contains a particular consciousness. It contains particular energetic principles. And so the cacao deva, which deva is the beloved term for the cacao spirit, or consciousness, is that of the heart. It expands the heart, it uncorks the heart, and she bridges the mind and heart together. And as we know, cacao, and the way that we drink it was in its traditional way, or it's about as traditional as you can get, in 2018. But the cacao is fermented. So there's actually no caffeine in the cacao, and it's the whole cacao bean that has been buried underground for 3 days to ferment. So it contains all the fat, it contains all the original chemical constituents and properties. And how it was used, it was prepared in such a way that I prepared it, and it's just mixed with water, and then it's a drink. So it's never heated until it smokes, and that again is to contain all the chemical properties of the cacao. We know it's the highest source of magnesium on the planet. We also know that it, kicks in those endorphins and works particularly with everybody's favorite, anandamide, the bliss chemical. Also working with the hormones like oxytocin, right, which makes us, many of us experience, that connection, that love-filled, that heart connection that brought us and brings us closer together. So there's a lot of ways that, it could be used. You can drink it with your beloved, to deepen connection in that way. And we also know that cacao is wonderful for fertility. It represented in Mayan culture also abundance, and was sometimes valued and worth more than coin.
This is my camera.
Okay.
That's my camera alarm.
I feel the vibration.
We call it dance party time. Yeah.
So yeah, there's many uses. Also, I know of ITs and people who have used it to write code, people who use or drink the cacao to write books or be in their creative process.
So let's talk about that, because so to me, if it's heart-centered, right? Heart-center, if we're talking dimensionally, that would be fourth dimension, which is when you hit fourth dimension, it's like no time, no space, right? So is that what you think, or what to you, is that what expands people past kind of the limiting maybe constructs of everyday life into something that is expansive? You keep saying the heart expansiveness, and so tapping into that.
Yeah, so it does it taps into that, so we can view and really integrate everything with that consciousness. So it's not creating a duality. Say I'm drinking a cup of ceremonial grade cacao to answer emails. So yes, it's making me one-pointed and focused, but it's removing perhaps the duality or the aversion I have to emails. So it's making it, more of a sacred experience, a heart-centered experience. I'm sure a more present experience than if I, on any other ordinary day, if I'm not holding that consciousness with or without the cacao, right? So, yeah, it's about, we talked a little bit about the integration piece. It's like, how can we integrate in such a way that, when we're taking the kids and dropping them off at school, when we're paying the taxes, wherever it is you have like aversion or get stuck, or the dust settles and you can't see the holiness or the sacredness and be fully present in that heart space in any given moment. How we can integrate and hold that frequency or space with every activity.
And would you say by drinking the cacao and tapping into or being able to feel physically what this feels like, that then it allows us to achieve this state going forward without the cacao?
Yeah, I don't drink it every day. I go through periods. When I was training, I was having ceremony every day. Then I've been off of it for months at a time. Because what it does is it helps us to remember. Right? So it helps us to remember our holiness. It helps us to remember the holiness of one another. It helps us to remember how precious life is, connection is.
Yeah, Kristen.
I have a question. Can you introduce it to family and friends who haven't been to the ceremony? Is it as effective or dangerous?
Yeah, ceremony is a little different, of course, but you can certainly share it. You would share it in smaller doses. So say like I'm just drinking it, or sharing it with family, with friends. I would just dose it appropriately. Sharing 20 grams with an individual is plenty. 20 grams of the ceremonial grade cacao, and then a cup of water, and sharing that is phenomenal. Or you can just put a tablespoon, in your morning smoothie or morning elixir, and share it that way and still receive the benefits.
Quick interjection, because I'm sure this is making people very intrigued on where to get the cacao. And so I know you sell ceremonial grade cacao. So do you have a website or something you could tell people right now who are maybe curious or already Googling?
Yeah, thank you. It's www.dharmayogasyracuse.com, and you can just email us directly off the website and we can ship that out to you. I also am in the process of actually having it prepared, like shaved, so it's still the ceremony grade, but just weighed out,
portioned out for people, making it easier.
Yeah, and different synergistic blends. Like I really love to infuse it with a rose tea. Is one of my favorites. And just having these little synergistic packages.
Are you going to include like an intentional prayer or type?
Always?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So whenever I'm obviously preparing the cacao, it's in a certain mind space, heart space, with mantra, etc. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I had an interesting listen to this. Of course, synchronicity is life, right? But Tuesday, I had a field trip for my son, and we went to locally Mobius Nature Center, which is right next to. It's on Sunny Lake Park for all of you locals out there, and one of the things that they were telling us, two of the hosts, the nature hosts, were telling us. They started talking about chocolate and how chocolate, the cacao trees. And then they started saying that there was one insect that actually pollinates, and it's very specific, pollinates cacao trees. And this insect is actually endangered. Did you know that?
Wow. I haven't heard that yet, but it does not surprise me. That's fascinating.
So my initial thought was we need to bring SaraSwati back and do some kind of donation to whatever. Save the insects.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't even know what the name was. Yeah, I just
have to research that.
Yes.
That's really fascinating.
Very on so many levels, right? Everything sacred seems to have its time in the or everything. I think what as humans we put such high importance on the things that are scarce, right? And so like diamonds, right? We make, and then they become scarce or rare, right? And so I think that's kind of, I don't know, I haven't thought about it enough, but it seems almost like the pendulum swing as things become very sacred or revered, then it seems to be that the pendulum has to swing to almost take it out of abundance, maybe. I'm not sure. That wasn't the right way to say that, but
But even as you're mentioning about scarcity and something being rare and sacred, I feel as if love, true connection, true consideration and compassion for people who are in your lives, and also friends, family, partners, pets, that is something to tap back into and to appreciate. And I think there's something really cool about the cacao ceremony and the drinking this delicious cacao to remind you, and it allows you to tap into the feeling of compassion for animals and people in your lives who maybe you never really went that next step to go deepen enough with. I don't know. It seems like, I hate to use the term just elixir, but I feel as if the cacao can have the ceremony or the drinking of it, so many positive effects on people, individual, quiet, personal lives. Not just in a big group setting, but if you really integrated it into your life. Imagine.
So SaraSwati, tell us how you do integrate. Maybe that's a great lead in.
Yeah, that's it. Keep it simple. So if we look at how we drank the ceremonial great cacao, it's simple. It's really simple. It's not been adulterated and had all of this elaborate things, and like the chocolate industry is, right? It's in its simplest form and essence. And so even with integration, I think that is a big piece, is keep it simple. So often we make things so elaborate or more difficult than they need to be, where integration can be as simple as rest, staying well hydrated, and staying well connected. right? So connected within through meditation practice, and then tending to all of your relations, your relationship to the earth, your relationship to your home, your relationship to your community, right? But truly keep it simple, and begin to recognize that everything can be good medicine if we just go back to the simplicity. So good rest is essential. When I am doing intensives, or say I'm going in to lead an intensive or a retreat, especially if it's like week long, I always arrive a couple days before, and I give myself what's called the reintegration period. So when I come back, to my home base, I have a couple of days, and there's, simple things I do, but all the things that I do or have dialed in support in keeping it simple.
Can you say that in a different way? Because you said you give yourself a few days before you start or lead an intensive. And so doing that beforehand is your way to get into space to lead the ceremony. And then were you saying something about afterwards? You also try and keep it simple?
Yeah. So when I call it the reintegration period. So I give myself a couple of days. I don't go right into work. When I come back from an intensive, like if I've been on a week intensive or leading or what have you, I don't go straight into teaching. I give myself 1 or 2 days to reintegrate into my home life, right? My relations there, to get grounded, to get back into, my daily practices, take good care, and to be able to recognize that everything can be good medicine, right? So being aware of how to cultivate that in my life. And if something doesn't feel like it's good medicine to me, then to, begin to just let that go and dissolve it in a way. As we make these upgrades, as we continue the work on ourselves, things naturally fall away. That's the law of the universe. When you bring something in, you have to let something go. So often when we do these intensives or we do spiritual work, you receive upgrades. Maybe it's a new personal realization or some knowledge. And to really fully integrate that, things have to fall away. You're going to have to let something go, whether it's an old belief, an old habit. Sometimes it can be, a relationship, old patterning, old programming. It can be actually physical stuff. So that's a really important part of integration, because a lot of times what happens is that people will take intensives or trainings or retreats. They receive these upgrades, and the frequency is uncomfortable in their body, and they're not able to hold it. So what often happens is that they go home and then they do what I call dumping the energy, whether it's through watching horrible programming, binge watching something, or eating, overeating or overindulging the senses in some way, to then just dump the energy. So it's like dumping all of the work that you just did or completed, instead of really integrating it. And the easiest way to integrate is, again, through the rest, through the self-reflection, keeping it simple, staying well hydrated, and continuing to look at the life as you reintegrate into your life. What's staying, what's going, what's shifting, how do I apply this? It's all practice.
So it sounds like when you are done with an intensive, a workshop, a ceremony, whatever you want to label this as, you almost give yourself some foundational space to grow this new component of yourself. You said you come home and you won't go back into work. You won't go back into quote unquote what that routine is, you almost give yourself this new space as if you're like, repotting plants, right? You're cultivating all that nourishment to kind of grow this new aspect that's just come in and ready to unfold.
Yeah, it's important because, of course, our conditioning is to just, I don't know about you, but our conditioning is to just like get back at it.
Yeah.
It's like
the human
even
condition.
If there was like a loss or a grief, how often, and this is really holds true in my maternal lineage, where there has been like periods of intense grief or loss, and the women in the family just, put on their boots and got to work, like carried on because they had to for the family. And even if it's not something as catastrophic or huge loss or grief or transition, still, when we're taking time for these practices or an intensive, we still need to tread lightly, gently in our day-to-day, so we can integrate. It's not about just sucking it up and then going back, because then we go back to forgetting when we've just awakened remembering.
And in human terms, it seems like, because I know we're going to send this to all the people who came to the retreat, because it's going to be so helpful. But for anybody who's out there exploring different experiences like that, or like what we had held last week, it's so interesting because these things, I want to make it as tangible as we can for anybody who's gone through this, right? So, because there is such shifting and newness wanting to come through, when we get triggered, it's almost like we have to go into a state of releasing expectations over who we were, right? Because through any ceremony, workshop, intensive, you are going to step into, if you allow it to happen, you're going to step into the next version of yourself that's wanting to emerge. And so in that, I sometimes feel like people enter into a state of confusion sometimes, and that's why people say it's so hard to integrate back into my life after I had an experience. And to me, the confusion seems to just be this moment where you don't have to attach to anything, right? Confusion, it gives you all options through all pathways. And so confusion is really a good thing, but in human terms, it scares us because in confusion, we don't know. We don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's just about allowing space.
Not pushing.
Yeah.
Not holding on to an old pattern because it's familiar, it's controlled, and just allowing the self to be expansive. And Kristen, yes, she's been holding on to this one.
I've been really big on symbolism and metaphors, and I remember when you were talking a little bit ago, I remember drinking the first sip I took of this bitter cacao. I thought, the chocolate I'm used to has more sweetness to it, and it's kind of like, it was a metaphor for life, like to go back to the basic, raw, unaltered, natural substance where our whole life we're trying to put the sweet in, we're trying to make it taste better. Yeah. And I thought that pure
so
cacao, is opening your heart. There wasn't any sweetness to it. It was bitter, and but yet this is supposed to open your heart, which I felt like it did. And I just thought it was kind of a metaphor for how we live. We're always trying to fill it with sweetness because it makes it taste better. And the cacao was bitter, yet opened your heart.
With a lot of trust. That room really embodied trust from the participants, if it was their first time or they've experienced it with you or someplace else. And just like Kristen said, it's so elemental. It's so basic. It's really where we all began. And when we were younger, we all had a lot more trust without different forces, the media, products, sales, supermarkets pushing their version of whatever it is that we need to be doing. And here you are experiencing the most basic, pure Peruvian ceremonial cacao with just water. Mm-hmm. Yes, and then just the essence.
SaraSwati love.
I was about to say the essence of SaraSwati's teachings and infusing that into your system. I don't know, it's like almost you could feel it going into your veins, into absorption into your intestines.
T-minus 10 minutes, we were all laughing and giddy and giggling, and the bubbles were raising. It was like a champagne bottle being uncorked in that room.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And it
It's
smelled
exactly
as sweet as the chocolate you eat.
Oh, yeah.
When you taste
Smell
it,
is amazing.
it's it doesn't taste as sweet as some of the chocolate I eat.
No, you could have eaten the air.
Yeah.
You could have open your mouth and open your nostrils, take a deep breath in, and you felt like you were eating.
Contact eye.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah, it just
exceptional.
brings that innocence back that Barry was speaking of. It reminds us of our childlike innocence, our purity.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we have do you have a little bit more time?
I have about 5 minutes.
Okay, so then maybe we'll ask you, because we have two Dharma school owners, teachers, leaders here, and so I feel that's powerful as well. So, SaraSwati, you're Dharma Syracuse, correct? And
Yes.
Barry, you represent Dharma Ohio. So I would just love for, we've mentioned this a few times and haven't really talked at all about what that means, or, for anybody who doesn't know Dharma and what that means to be a part of it. So if you could tell me your end, and then we'll let you exit when you need to, and then Barry can continue the conversation for you, with you.
That would be great. And then I can listen to Barry's offerings on the recap once this is online.
Yay!
Sri Dharma Mitra is a living yoga master, and his guru was Swami Kailashananda, or Yogi Gupta, who brought yoga here to the West, I believe in the 50s, and he brought it to the East Coast. And he deemed Sri Dharma as the Hatha Yoga master, the leading Hatha Yoga master in the world. And for anybody who's met Dharma, he's actually turning 79 this year, and they're having a wonderful weekend immersion in New York City, if you can make it. But to be in the presence of a living master, he's, such a light. It's a blessing and honor to be in his experience, and just the most humble human being on the planet, and is an embodiment of this unconditional love, this compassion, while selflessly giving all the teachings of the yogic science for over 50 years. And he doesn't just, keep certain things a secret. He just shares all of his knowledge day in and day out, tirelessly. So the lineage that me and Barry are part of is the Dharma Yoga lineage, and it's not only steeped in tradition, but the teachings that Sri Dharma has passed on and continues to pass on in his New York City center, through his teacher training programs and various daily classes and workshops, hold all the parts of yoga. So although they look asana based from the outside, and when you're in the class you're doing all the hatha yoga poses, they're steeped in all the forms of yoga, right? The knowledge form, the path of jnana yoga, the path of Raj yoga, meditation, bhakti yoga. His path was a lot based in karma yoga, and to this day he's Sarta Karma Yogi, you always see him, doing things in his centers and his temple, fixing things. He's very hands-on. You'll often be in a class in a pose, holding a pose, which seems like for a lifetime because he's so adamant and determined to helping others find success in the pose, and will, go around and spend time with you until you get it. So if he sees that you got it, he'll stand right by you and be assisting and adjusting you until that person is like, oh, I got it. So, I could talk about Dharma Yoga forever, but I'll let Barry take over. And yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity and blessing to be able to carry on this lineage and the teachings of Sri Dharma and have a school here in Syracuse, which I'm sure Barry feels the same about her space in Ohio.
So if you could just again tell people who are in your area, because we have people from all over listening, how to find you, that would be great.
Yeah, so I've been open here it'll be 16 years in September, right on Onondaga Lake. And again, it's dharmayogasyracuse.com. Or you can find me on Instagram, Dharma Yoga Syracuse, or Facebook, SaraSwati Om.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on once again. Your light and love and energy are just such a blessing for us here. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to coming back to Walden, and it's wonderful to connect with all of you. Lots of love, JENESSEE, Christine, and Barry. Thank you so much.
Yes. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Barry.
Okay, well, the floodgates will just
I know.
open
I'm
up.
going to have to keep eye contact
Keep eye
because
contact.
we will
4
lose
minutes.
Barry. We will lose Barry.
So let's just go back to saying what Saraswati said. It is an honor and a great blessing to be in the presence of Dharmaji, Guruji, Sri Dharma Mitra, who is the light and love of so many Dharma yogis and people around the world. And what an exceptional blessing to be bestowed that, not just a blessing, but like an amazing experience to think that Sri Dharma gave his blessing, Eva gave her blessing towards creating Dharma Yoga Ohio's existence at Spa Walden. And then through my teaching, having gone through the 500-hour teacher training with Sri Dharma and just gleaning so much, as Saraswati said, from all the different aspects, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, pranayama, meditation, the 8 limbs of yoga, everything that has been infused into the teacher training and the countless hours I've spent time studying at the Dharma Yoga Center, to then bring that concept to Walden Wellness, to Walden. And I feel so compelled to say I will go also tomorrow. I'm leaving for New York City for the Dharma Yoga Center to start my 700-hour, 1,000-hour teacher training. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Can I ask,
yes.
Is Dharma Yoga, if people are looking at their local studios and see Dharma Yoga being offered, is that a yoga practice that anybody can do? Is it more advanced?
It's all levels. There is Dharma Gentle, Dharma 1, 2, 3, and 4 being the most athletic, let's say vigorous, advanced asana. And then also this new practice that I am going to bring exclusively through Dharma Yoga Teacher Training 700-hour will be called charging practice, where asana becomes as wonderful as meditation. Meditation is integrated into the asana. So this is the practice that Sri Dharma is doing now, currently in New York City at Dharma Yoga.
Is this a new concept for him, or is it?
I think it's an evolving concept where everything that he has always been teaching, but now fresh for 2018, 2017, he's now
putting it into this
title.
language.
You can even see some Dharma Yoga charging practice classes on the Cody, C-O-D-Y app, that fitness app where he has charging practice, and also on Vimeo. He has a Mahasadhana and the charging practice, and a lot of his classes that you can purchase and download, both Cody and Vimeo. And you can't believe what's going on. He is having an amazing birthday weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend, 79 years young. And he just is an example of how you can be healthy, both in your mind, both in your body, both in your demeanor, both with your relationships to students, friends, family, everything. And you can just keep giving and keep receiving and sharing yourself and being in a happy life, a content life, a well-balanced life. And he's teaching you the essential tools. You have a toolbox now. Things go wrong, things are going on. You need to tap into you. Well, now through Dharma Yoga, you can tap into you. And so, yes, all levels, beginner, gentle, even someone who's new to yoga can feel Dharma Yoga integrate into their life and benefit.
And so Kristen's in studio with us, and she's actually going through the teacher training program that Barry, you teach, and it's a Dharma lineage teacher training. And so how would you explain this process, going through a teacher training so that you can teach?
Well, I've enjoyed it, and the one reason I met with Barry before I decided where I was going to train, and what appealed to me first was I love the Walden, and then secondly, I met with her, and she said it could be self-paced. So in my busy life, I have 4 kids. I couldn't cram in 6 weeks or 8 weeks of a 200-hour training because I knew it's something I wanted, but I knew it wouldn't fit in my life, and it would just cause me stress. So that was one of the main reasons when she said it could be self-paced, and I think it's a great way because I feel like I'm learning things throughout the journey, and if I just crammed it all in 6 weeks, I might not question things the same or experience it the same.
Well, and again, back to the whole, this is, even if it's a 6-week intensive, it's an intensive no matter what. And so in that time, there's so many things that are changing, downloading, activating within a person, right? We're expecting somebody to go to a 6-week course and by the end of it, be able to teach people how to be a whole, healthy human being, mind, body, spirit. And so I love at Walden that Barry's created this program where it's inclusive. If you want to do it in 6 weeks and power through it, you can, but I don't think many people do. They love taking it at their own pace through their own integration period. And really, people, I've talked to other teachers who have come out the other end with their certification in hand, and they say the fact that they could actually do it a whole year and have that, they learn so much more and were able to live the practices actually day by day, and integrate it into their life, which was a lot more powerful.
And so I encourage everyone to go to Dharma Yoga New York City and do a 200-hour, 500-hour, 700, 800-hour, whatever suits their needs in New York City. But that doesn't work for everyone, and I do want to share everything that I've learned. So my course is not a pure Dharma Yoga certificate. It's not. It's more a Walden wellness, highly influenced by Sri Dharma's teachings from the yoga end.
You'll know the lineage. But it's
lineage.
A Walden Wellness Yoga Alliance certified certificate.
200-hour teacher training Yoga Alliance certified. So sign up and come see us.
Find it on yourwalden.com. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for coming in studio. It's been such a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Namaste.
Namaste to everybody.
Namaste.
If you're looking to discover more or need a recap of today's show, subscribe to the Wellness Walden YouTube channel or go to www.yourwalden.com to access the latest content and videos from this show and more. The Wellness Hour with JENESSEE on Karma Radio every Friday at 11 a.m.